Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is January 20th, 2026. We made it.
We did. Barely.
And today we're doing something a little bit different. Usually we take one single topic and, drill all the way down.
Right.
But today we're panning back. We're taking a wide-angle look at the last 2 years, that chaotic, fast-paced blur that was 2024 and 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to find the signal in what was, frankly, just an unprecedented amount of noise. Because if there's one defining characteristic of the era we just lived through, it was the sheer volume of noise.
Absolute deafening noise.
Yeah.
And I think what made the last 24 months so exhausting wasn't just the volume, but the complexity of it. It wasn't just loud. It was contradictory and fast-moving and so often completely fabricated.
Fabricated. I've got a stack of reports here on the desk that on the surface look like a completely random grab bag.
Yeah, what if we got?
We have a corporate risk analysis from Signal AI about, believe it or not, marketing trends. Then we have this very heavy, very dense geopolitical case study from Blackbird.ai and Ed's Theory about a conflict between India and Pakistan.
Okay.
And then, just to keep things interesting, we have a philosophical essay by Pourier Nazemi on the nature of news urgency.
It sounds like we just threw a dart at a library wall.
It does.
But there is a hidden thread here, a very specific and I think very dangerous thread that connects, say, a startup trying to sell you a smart toothbrush to a nuclear power trying to justify a military strike.
And that's the thread we want to pull on today. We're calling it the crisis of credibility. It really feels like in the last 2 years, the pressure to be first or to be innovative or just to be the loudest voice in the room has completely eroded our ability to trust what we see.
That is the absolute core of it. We are living in a landscape where reality is being manufactured on an industrial scale, and it doesn't matter if it's a company faking their tech stack to secure a Series A funding round or a state actor deploying a bot army to fake a political consensus. The methodology is, it's surprisingly similar. It's all about manipulating perception at speed.
So our mission today is really to equip you, the learner, with the tools to spot this stuff. We want to show you how to identify fake innovation in the business world, how to dismantle manufactured narratives in the news.
And ultimately, we're going to argue for a pretty radical new way of consuming information, something one of our sources calls the right to pause.
The right to pause. I love that.
It's a beautiful concept, and we will definitely get to it. But to understand why the pause is so revolutionary, we first have to look at just how fast everything is moving and how much of the movement is actually, an illusion.
Okay, so let's start with the corporate side of things. We're looking at this report from Signal AI, published back in 2025, called AI Washing, a rising threat to brand reputation. Now, looking back from 2026, this feels almost quaint, but walk us through the landscape of late 2024.
Right. Context is absolutely everything here. By 2024, 2025, artificial intelligence had moved from interesting tech to an existential necessity for corporations. Every single board of directors was screaming at their CEO, what is our AI strategy? Why aren't we an AI company yet?
And the result was this whole phenomenon called AI washing. It sounds a lot like greenwashing, doesn't it?
Yeah, the exact same playbook, just with a different buzzword.
Yeah.
In the 2010s, if you wanted to boost sales, you slapped a green leaf on your logo, called your product eco-friendly, and, conveniently ignored the fact that your factory was bumping sludge into the river.
Right.
In 2024, companies realized that if they slapped the label AI-powered on their product, two things happened immediately. Customers got excited, and more importantly, investors opened their checkbooks.
The report breaks this down into 3 specific types of lying, essentially. And I want to go through these because once you know them, you see them everywhere.
They're all over the place.
The first one is automation misrepresentation.
This is the Wizard of Oz effect. It's probably the most cynical of the 3, I think.
How so?
You claim a process is fully automated by some sophisticated neural network. You tell the customer, just upload your financial data, and our proprietary AI analyzes it in seconds. But behind the curtain, there isn't an AI. It's a room full of underpaid humans, often in a different time zone, manually typing things into a spreadsheet or tagging images by hand.
It's the mechanical Turk problem. You're selling the future, but you're delivering manual labor.
Precisely. And it's so effective because the user gets the result they want, so they don't question the method. But the valuation of the company is based on a complete lie. They aren't a high-margin tech company. They're a low-margin service company that's just pretending to be a machine.
Okay, so the second type is capability exaggeration. This one feels the most common to me, especially in software.
Oh, it is ubiquitous. This is where a company actually uses some AI, maybe a basic chatbot or a simple sorting algorithm, but they vastly overstate what it can actually do. They promise these, realistic predictive capabilities. For example, a supply chain software promising to tell you exactly to the minute when shipment will arrive based on AI forecasting.
When really it's just a guess.
When in reality, the model is just guessing based on historical averages. It's promising you magic when all you have is basic math.
And the third one is my favorite because it's just so incredibly lazy. Algorithm rebranding.
This is the classic old wine in new bottles.
Yeah.
A company has been using basic statistics or a standard regression algorithm for 10 years. It works fine.
Sure.
But suddenly, ChatGPT comes out, AI is the only thing DCs care about, so they just rename their old statistics tab to AI Insights. They didn't change a single line of code. They just changed the marketing copy to ride the hype cycle.
Why go to all that trouble? I mean, apart from just wanting to look cool at a dinner party, the report actually puts a number on the incentive.
And it's a massive number. The report highlights that startups labeled as AI were attracting, get this, 15 to 50% more funding than those that weren't.
15 to 50.
Yeah. Think about that. If you are a founder looking for seed money, that spread is the difference between life and death. It's the difference between hiring a full team or folding in 6 months. The financial incentive to lie was, and honestly, it still is, overwhelming.
And what sectors are the worst offenders here? I was expecting tech, obviously. But the list in this Signal AI report is kind of surprising.
Well, financial services is huge, mostly because that's where all the money is.
Yeah.
If you can promise AI beating returns, people will just throw cash at you.
Right.
Cybersecurity is another one. If you went to a conference like Black Hat back in 2024, literally every single booth said AI-powered security, whether they used it or not. But the one that really stands out in the report, and I know this is your favorite detail, is beauty and personal care.
The AI toothbrush. Still can't get over this.
It's the perfect example of the absurdity of it all.
What does an AI toothbrush even do?
That's the point. It doesn't have to do anything meaningful. Maybe it has a timer. Maybe it connects to an app that tells you didn't brush your molars enough. But does it need a neural network for that? No. Does it need artificial intelligence? Absolutely not. But calling it an AI toothbrush justifies a $200 price tag. The report explicitly mentions personal care products making these exaggerated claims because it signifies luxury and innovation to the consumer, even if the tech adds zero functional value.
But, and here's where the rubber meets the road, the regulators didn't just sleep through this. We saw the SEC fire what the report calls the first shot across the bow in early 2024.
This is a pivotal moment in corporate compliance. A really big deal. The SEC charged 2 investment advisors, Delphi USA and Global Predictions, Inc.
Right.
They fined them a combined $400,000. Now, I know what you're thinking. To a big bank, $400,000 is a rounding error. It's lunch money.
Yeah, not much.
But the message was so much louder than the dollar amount.
What exactly did they get nailed for?
They claimed to be using AI in their investment strategies to give their clients a predictive edge. The SEC looked under the hood and basically said, no, you aren't. This is vaporware. SEC Chair Gary Gensler had this great quote that really set the tone for the crackdown. He said, AI washing hurts investors. He made it crystal clear. You are selling a capability you simply do not possess. You are lying about your competitive advantage.
And it wasn't just the SEC. The FTC launched Operation AI Comply in September of 24.
Yep. And the Australians at the ACCC threatened fines up to $50 million for misleading consumers.
$50 million.
The EU has their unfair commercial practices directive. The legal walls, they really started closing in around these marketing departments.
But the report argues, and I think this is the crucial takeaway for any business leaders listening, that the fines aren't even the biggest risk.
Not at all.
The biggest risk is something they call the credibility barrier.
Right. They mentioned that 85% of consumers consider a company's reputation to be crucial.
Yeah.
Think about the psychology of it. If I buy your AI toothbrush and I realize it's just a regular electric toothbrush with a fancy app, I feel duped. I feel like an idiot. And I don't just stop trusting your toothbrush claims. I stop trusting your brand entirely. Once you shatter consumer trust, it is incredibly expensive and difficult to put it back together.
So you're looking at crisis comms costs.
Crisis communications, remediation expenses, massive delays in due diligence if you're ever trying to sell the company. You become toxic.
So that's the corporate side, companies faking innovation to grab cash. But now, let's pivot, because if you think selling a fake AI toothbrush is bad, wait until you see what happens when governments start using these same tactics to sell a war.
This brings us to our second set of sources, the analysis from Blackbird.ai and Edge Theory. And here we are moving from AI washing to narrative intelligence. And the stakes here go from losing $200 on a gadget to losing lives.
Can we define that first, narrative intelligence? It sounds like something straight out of a spy novel.
It essentially is modern spycraft, but it's all conducted in the open.
Yeah.
Traditionally, companies and governments use what they called social listening. They would monitor Twitter or Facebook to see if people were saying nice things or mean things about them. Sentiment analysis, are they happy or sad?
Basic brand monitoring, yeah.
Narrative intelligence goes much, much deeper. It's the science of evaluating how stories' narratives affect the cognition of the consumer. It's not just, what are they saying? It asks, who is planting this story? Is it organic or is it a coordinated attack? What is the intent behind it? And how is it mutating as it moves across different platforms?
Yeah.
It's really about analyzing the engineering of reality.
And we have a terrifyingly detailed case study here, Operation Sindor.
Yes. This comes from the Blackbird.ai report. To set the scene, the context is extremely high tension between India and Pakistan. There was a terror attack in Pahalgam where 26 civilians were tragically killed.
Right.
In response, India launched Operation Sindor, which they described as targeted strikes against terrorist infrastructure.
So a standard military conflict so far. Physical strikes, physical targets. But the report focuses on the digital battlefield that opened up at the exact same time.
Immediately. And the second the news broke, a war of narratives just erupted online. Blackbird.ai analyzed over 180,000 posts with 3 million engagements.
Wow.
And here is the kicker. This is a stat that should make everyone pause.
Yeah.
They found that 33.9% of the activity around certain narratives was anomalous.
Anomalous is a polite way of saying fake, right?
It's a very polite way of saying fake.
Okay.
It means bots, cyborgs, which are bots aided by humans to get around CAPTCHAs and coordinated inauthentic campaigns. So basically, 1 out of every 3 posts you saw wasn't a real person sharing an opinion.
It was a soldier.
It was a soldier in an information war, executed by code.
Let's break down the narratives because the report lists them out, and it's just fascinating to see how they compete like products in a marketplace.
Okay, so you have narrative A, which is the pro-India side, Operation Sindor as justified response. This was driven largely by official Indian government accounts, the defense ministry, politicians, and so on.
And the report notes that the core nodes, the main accounts starting this, were verified and real.
Correct. The core was authentic. But the periphery, the thousands and thousands of accounts resharing, commenting, and amplifying it, showed extremely high levels of coordination. So it's a mix of state messaging and, genuine patriotic fervor, but amplified by machines to make the support look overwhelming.
Okay, then you have narrative B, the Pakistan side. This one seemed much more aggressive in its framing.
This one was designed to completely flip the script. The narrative was Pakistan as a terrorist state versus India as aggressor. But let's look at that. Pakistan is a terrorist state. Hashtag for a second.
Okay.
This had the highest engagement to post ratio of any narrative in the conflict.
Yeah.
And a staggering 93% of the posts using this hashtag were flagged as anomalous.
93%. That's not a conversation. That's a megaphone held by a robot army.
Exactly. It is a manufactured consensus. If you were just scrolling Twitter or X during this crisis, you would see this hashtag trending globally. You would think, wow, the whole world agrees on this.
Yeah.
But you aren't seeing the world. You're seeing a script running on a server farm somewhere.
And then there was a third narrative sort of caught in the crossfire, the Kashmir narrative.
Kashmir independence. This one is tragic in a way. It framed the conflict as 2 nuclear powers fighting over a territory that wants neither of them. It had significant traction among real people, but in the data, you can literally watch it being drowned out by the amplified state narratives on both sides.
It just didn't have the bot budget.
It didn't have the bot budget, so it didn't get the visibility.
One of the tactics the report mentions is narrative laundering. I love that term, in a dark way. It's like money laundering, but for lies.
It's an incredibly effective tactic.
Yeah.
Here's how it works. You take a piece of state propaganda, something that looks obviously biased. You don't post it from the government account. Instead, you get a verified account, maybe a sympathetic journalist, a mid-level influencer, someone with a blue check mark and a real face to reshare it or quote it.
And suddenly it seems credible.
Suddenly, that information has a veneer of credibility. It doesn't look like propaganda anymore. It looks like news. The verified account launders the source, making it palatable for the mainstream.
And they also talk about sentiment weaponization. We aren't just sharing facts here, we are sharing feelings. The algorithms prioritize high arousal emotion.
And the actors know this. They exploit it. The pro-India narratives weaponized anger, focusing on justice, retribution, security. The counter-narratives weaponized fear, focusing on victimhood and aggression.
And the most dangerous one.
The most dangerous one was the imminent war escalation narrative. This claimed that a full-scale nuclear war was about to start in 2 to 14 days.
That one had the highest bot activity, right? 18.5% of the conversation.
Yes, because fear makes you click. Fear makes you share. If you can make the enemy's population panic, buy out all the grocery stores, and clog the roads, you have successfully destabilized them without ever firing a single missile.
It's information battle space preparation.
That's the term. Before you send the jets, you send the tweets to confuse and terrify the population.
So we have companies lying to get our money and governments manipulating narratives to get our support. It makes you wonder, how do we even know this? I mean, how did these reports figure this all out? We can't see the bots with our naked eyes.
That brings us to the methodology. This is the how behind the deep dive. We are looking at the tech from edge theory and signal AI. And what they're doing is they're using AI to catch AI.
Edge theory has this model they call consume, disassemble, analyze, synthesize. Can you walk us through that?
It's a really rigorous framework. First, consume. They ingest just massive amounts of publicly available information, what they call PAI.
So this isn't hacking.
No, not at all. This is just reading everything that is public. Social media, dark web forums, news sites, blogs, you name it. Then comes disassemble. They call this atomization.
Atomization, like breaking the narrative down to the atomic level.
Exactly. You don't just read the tweet as a sentence. You break it down into its digital DNA. Who posted it? What time exactly? What keywords are being used? What is the image hash? Who did they tag? What is the sentiment score? You turn the story into a huge data set.
And then analyze.
Right. And this is where you use NLP, natural language processing, to find the patterns that we humans would miss. A human can't read 180,000 posts, but an AI can. And the AI notices things like, why did 5,000 supposedly unconnected accounts all use the exact same phrase with the exact same typo within 3 seconds of each other?
Humans don't do that.
Humans don't do that. Bots do. That's a coordination signature.
And finally, synthesize. Put it all back together to see the story behind the story.
Correct. Signal AI does something similar with what they call threat sensing. They're looking for the white swan.
We usually hear about black swans, unpredictable, rare events like a meteor strike.
A white swan is a risk that is predictable, visible, but ignored. It's the iceberg you can clearly see, but everyone on the ship is too busy rearranging deck chairs to acknowledge it. Signal AI uses their tech to scan the horizon and say, hey, everyone is ignoring this little blip in the data, but our models show it's about to become a massive crisis.
There is a deep irony here, isn't there?
A huge one.
We are using AI to detect the lies told by other AI.
It is an arms race, a full-on AI versus AI arms race.
Yeah.
The bad guys have generative AI to create deepfakes and infinite bot comments instantly.
Yeah.
The good guys have narrative intelligence AI to spot the patterns and flag the fakes. And we, the humans, are just standing in the middle of this digital crossfire trying to figure out which robot to believe.
Which feels like a losing battle for us. If the robots are fighting it out at light speed, what are we supposed to do? We can't process information that fast.
We can't.
And this leads us perfectly to our final source, which takes a step back from the tech and looks at the human behavior that makes us so vulnerable to all this in the first place.
This is the essay by Poria Nazemi against the ideology of news urgency. And frankly, even though it's the least technical document we have here, it might be the most important piece of the entire puzzle.
Nazemi argues that the problem isn't just the technology, it's our addiction to speed, this ideology of news urgency.
He makes a really compelling argument that speed has replaced accuracy, context, and public value as the primary metric of news. We have entered an attention economy. He quotes Herbert Simon, the economist, who said way back in the 70s that in a world where information is abundant, attention is the scarce resource.
So the media stops asking, what does the public need to know to be good citizens? And starts asking, what will keep them watching for 5 more seconds?
Exactly. And that shift is deadly. Nazemi lists these historical failures of speed. And remember, these happened before generative AI really took off, which makes it even scarier. It shows the human flaw was already there.
The Boston Marathon bombing in 2013 is the one that always haunts me.
A classic, tragic example of the internet playing detective. The witch hunt. Reddit and Twitter decided they knew who the bombers were based on grainy photos.
I remember that.
And the mainstream media, afraid of being scooped by social media, started reporting on these suspects. They were innocent people, lives were ruined, families were harassed because everyone wanted to be first and nobody wanted to be right.
The Ebola crisis in 2014 was another one he cites.
Yeah, rushed reporting created this apocalyptic narrative that just didn't match the science. It caused widespread panic, border closures, economic damage, rather than actual preparedness.
And of course, COVID-19.
The early days were a total mess of conflicting, rushed preprints. Take this drug, don't take this drug, masks work, masks don't work. Mazzini points out a study that was updated in 2025. False narratives spread 6 times faster than the truth.
6 times faster.
6 times. The truth is boring and complex. Lies are simple and exciting.
And now bring AI into that mix.
Generative AI is just gasoline on that fire.
Mm-hmm.
It allows fakes to be produced instantly. In the past, forging a document or a photo took skill and time. You had to know Photoshop.
Right.
Now, you just type a prompt, show me the president accepting a bribe, and you have a photorealistic image in seconds.
So speed is no longer a competitive advantage for truth tellers.
It can't be. You cannot outspeed a lie that can be generated automatically. If you try to race the bots, you will lose every single time. And the public knows this, Trust levels are just plummeting.
Yeah.
The report mentions that only 26% of people trust information produced by AI. We are becoming cynical, which is dangerous in its own way.
So what's the solution? Nazemi doesn't just complain. He proposes a truth-oriented model.
And it starts with something he calls structural segregation. He argues that newsrooms need to separate vital urgent news like there was a tornado touching down, take cover, from important non-urgent news.
And most news is non-urgent.
99% of it is. The stock market wiggling, a politician making a gaffe, a celebrity breakup, even most geopolitical analysis, none of that requires instantaneous reporting.
Yeah.
And so Nazemi argues for the right to pause.
I love that phrase, the right to pause.
Institutions need to reclaim the right to say, we don't know yet.
Oh.
In the old days, that was a weakness. If CNN said, we don't know, and Twitter said, we have the video, CNN looked slow.
Yeah.
But today, saying we're waiting to verify should be a badge of honor. It's a virtue. It signals we care more about the truth than we do about the click.
Nazemi also brings in a perspective that I think we often miss in the West, the view from the global South. He writes specifically about Iran.
And this is so crucial. In Western democracies, urgency leads to confusion. But in countries with censorship and authoritarian regimes, urgency is dangerous. He talks about delirium tactics.
Delirium tactics?
It's a strategy where regimes will use rapid, chaotic responses to confuse the public during a protest or a crisis. And if an independent media outlet rushes to report a rumor and gets it wrong, the regime weaponizes that mistake. They say, see, they are liars. They are foreign agents. You can't trust them.
Wow.
In a high-stakes environment like that, being slow and accurate is a survival strategy for the opposition.
So taking a pause isn't just about our mental health. It's about preserving the very possibility of truth and democracy.
I think it's the only way to break the cycle. If the liars are fast, the truth must be slow. We have to decouple news from now.
Wow. Okay, let's try to pull all of this together. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. We started with the corporate illusion companies, AI washing their products with a ridiculous toothbrush to get that sweet, sweet investor cash.
Right. We learned that the innovation is often just a label.
Then we moved to the geopolitical illusion Operation Sindor. Governments using bot networks, narrative laundering, and sentiment weaponization to manufacture consent for war. We learned that the consensus is often just a script.
And we ended with the methodology of the solution, the need to reject the ideology of urgency. The speed is the trap. So what does this all mean for our listener, for the learner? They are sitting there, maybe checking their phone right now, overwhelmed by notifications. What should they do differently tomorrow?
First thing is skepticism. Intense, healthy skepticism. When you see AI powered on a consumer good, you should assume it's marketing fluff until proven otherwise. Don't pay the premium for the buzzword. Ask yourself, does this actually need AI or is it just a spreadsheet in a fancy box?
And when a crisis breaks, a big news story.
When a geopolitical crisis hits, a bombing, a riot, an election scandal, check your own pulse. This is the hardest part. If you feel a sudden spike of anger or fear, pause. Literally, put the phone down. Ask yourself, is this emotion mine or was it manufactured for me? Look for the anomalies. If everyone you see is using the exact same hashtag at the exact same time, you aren't seeing a movement. You're seeing a campaign.
And the actionable advice from Nazemi.
Adopt the right to pause in your own life. You do not need to have an opinion on the breaking news 5 minutes after it happens. You don't need to share it. In fact, by not sharing it so you can verify it, you are helping to clean up the information ecosystem. You are refusing to be a node in the botnet.
Nazemi had a thought at the end of his essay that really stuck with me. He said, being small is not a weakness.
That's such a powerful idea.
Yeah.
Small, specialized media, or even, podcasts like this one, or just you as an individual chatting with friends, we can afford to pause. We aren't publicly traded.
Right.
We aren't chasing the algorithm for 1 billion clicks.
Right.
We can take the time to read the reports, verify the data, and have this kind of conversation.
Which leads me to my final thought for this deep dive. We talked about AI making everything instant art, instant text, instant lies. In a world where AI can create infinite content instantly.
Human slowness becomes the ultimate luxury good.
Exactly. The ability to take time, the ability to think slowly, that is going to be the premium product of the future. The rich and the smart will be slow, the manipulated will be fast.
I think you're right. Accuracy is the new avant-garde.
On that note, we are going to take a pause ourselves. Keep diving deep, stay skeptical, and remember, you don't have to be first. You just have to be right. Thanks for listening.
Take care.